I let her stay at my place while I traveled for work. When I came back early, there were strangers living there. She had rented out my house on Airbnb behind my back. When I asked why, she said you weren't using it. I didn't say a word. I called the police. Before we start, I just want to say thank you for being here. It means the world. But take a look at this. Only 8% of people watching are subscribed. If you enjoy these stories and want to support more of them, just one click makes a huge difference. It's been almost 6 months since this all went down, but I'm still processing what happened. Never thought I'd be posting here, but I need to get this off my chest. Some background. I'm 36, work as an environmental engineer for a consulting firm that handles remediation projects across the country. I own my home, a modest 3-bedroom house in a decent neighborhood that I bought 5 years ago and have put a lot of work into renovating. Nothing fancy, but it's mine and I'm proud of it. I'd been dating Vanessa, 34, for about 8 months when all this happened. We met through a hiking group, hit it off, and things had been going well. She lived in a small apartment about 30 minutes from my place and worked in marketing for a local company. We weren't living together, but she stayed over frequently and had a tea for convenience. In January, I got assigned to a major project in Arizona that was scheduled to last 3 weeks. It would be my longest time away since we started dating. Before I left, Vanessa mentioned that her apartment building was scheduled for some plumbing repairs during that time and the water would be shut off for at least a week. Can I stay at your place while you're gone? It would really help me out. It seemed like a reasonable request from someone I trusted. She'd stayed at my place many times before, and I liked the idea of someone keeping an eye on the house while I was away. Of course, I told her. Make yourself at home. Just water the plants and bring in the mail. I left her a spare key beyond the one she already had, showed her how to work the thermostat and security system, and headed off to Arizona. The project was extensive. Soil remediation for a former industrial site. Long hours. Complicated work. I called Vanessa every few days to check in. She always said everything was fine at the house, that she was enjoying the space while her apartment was under construction. 2 weeks into the project, we hit a significant breakthrough that accelerated our timeline. My boss told me I could head home a week early. I was thrilled. 3 weeks away is a long time, and I was missing my own bed. I decided to surprise Vanessa. Didn't tell her I was coming home early, just caught a flight back and took an Uber from the airport to my house, arriving around 7 p.m. on a Thursday. When I pulled up, I noticed unfamiliar luggage in the entryway through the front window. Confused, I unlocked the door and walked in to find a middle-aged couple and their teenage son sitting in my living room watching my TV. They looked as startled to see me as I was to see them. "Who are you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "And why are you in my house?" The men stood up. "We rented this place on Airbnb, paid through Sunday." "Are you the owner?" My mind was reeling. "Yes. I'm the owner, and I never listed my house on Airbnb." The woman pulled out her phone. "We have the confirmation right here. Booked it 3 weeks ago with a host named Vanessa." She showed me the listing. My house, photographed beautifully with photos I had never taken, described as a charming renovated home close to downtown and hiking trails. The rate was $189 per night with a 3-night minimum. I was speechless. I scrolled through the listing to see more photos of my bedroom, kitchen, office, everything. There was even a note in the house rules section. "Please avoid booking February 7 as the owner may return during that time." I was due back February 8. She had been renting out my house the entire time I was gone, but carefully managed the calendar to ensure no one would be there when I returned. "I need to make a call," I told the family, stepping onto my own front porch for privacy. "Please give me a moment." I called Vanessa immediately. She answered on the second ring, sounding cheerful. "Hey, how's Arizona making progress? Why are there strangers in my house?" I asked directly. "A pause, then you're home. You weren't supposed to be back until next week." "That's your response?" "Not, I'm sorry for renting out your house without permission, but you weren't supposed to be back yet." Another pause. "Look, it's not a big deal. These people needed a place to stay and you weren't using the house anyway. I've been keeping it clean and managing everything. You've been renting out my house on Airbnb behind my back and you don't think that's a big deal. I don't see why you're so upset," she said, her tone suddenly defensive. "It's just sitting there empty while you're gone. I've made nearly $3,000 in the past 2 weeks. I was going to surprise you with a nice dinner when you got back." My blood was boiling now. A $3,000 dinner with money you made by renting out my property without my knowledge or consent. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. You weren't using it. She repeated as if that justified everything. I want you to come over right now and deal with this. I said I can't. I'm at a work event. Just let them stay. They've already paid. We can talk about this tomorrow. No. We can't. These people are in my house illegally. Either you come solve this now or I'm calling the police. Don't be dramatic. She scoffed. Just go stay at my place tonight if you're that uncomfortable. That was it. I ended the call without another word and went back inside. The family was now standing awkwardly in my living room, clearly sensing something was wrong. I'm very sorry about this. I told them, trying to stay composed, but this house was never legally available for rent. The person who listed it had no authority to do so. I'm afraid you'll need to find other accommodations. The men nodded slowly. We could tell from your reaction something wasn't right. Will we be able to get our money back? I'll make sure of it. I assured them. But right now I need you to pack your things. I can help you find a hotel nearby. While they gathered their belongings, I called the police. I explained the situation calmly. Someone had rented out my home without my permission. And while the current occupants were leaving cooperatively, I wanted the incident documented. An officer arrived as the family was loading their car. I showed him my ID and property documents confirming I was the homeowner. He took statements from both me and the family, who corroborated that they had rented the place through Airbnb from someone named Vanessa. After the family left with my contact information and a promise to help them recover their money, the officer asked if I wanted to press charges against Vanessa for unauthorized use of property. Let me think about it, I replied. For now, I just want this documented. He wrote up a report and gave me the case number for reference. After he left, I changed all my locks, both the regular door locks and the electronic keypad. Then I logged into my security camera account. I had cameras at the front door and back patio, which I checked occasionally but hadn't reviewed while away. The footage was eye-opening. Over the past 2 weeks, Vanessa had brought at least 4 different sets of guests through my home. I could see her showing them around, handing over keys, all with the confident air of someone who owned the place or had full authority to rent it. As I was reviewing the footage, my phone exploded with texts from Vanessa. You called the cops. Are you insane? You're completely overreacting. It's not like I damaged anything. Those people paid good money. Now they're out on the street. I was doing you a favor. That house sits empty all the time. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I contacted Airbnb's customer service, explained the situation, provided my proof of ownership and the police report number, and requested they immediately remove the unauthorized listing of my property and freeze any funds not yet dispersed to Vanessa. The customer service representative was appropriately horrified. They removed the listing within an hour and opened an investigation. They also provided contact information for the previous guests so I could verify if anything had been taken or damaged. The next morning, I contacted a lawyer friend for advice. He suggested I formally document everything that had happened, send Vanessa a cease and desist letter, and consider filing a civil suit for unauthorized use of property and potential damages. What damages? I asked. Besides my peace of mind, nothing seems physically damaged. Unauthorized rental of your property has a market value, he explained. She profited from your asset without permission. That's essentially theft. Plus, there are potential tax implications, insurance issues if something had happened to a guest while on your property, and more. I took his advice and had him draft a formal letter to Vanessa demanding she forfeit all profits from the unauthorized rental of my property and stating that any further attempt to access my home would be considered trespassing. Meanwhile, Vanessa had moved from angry texts to pleading ones. Please just talk to me. You're blowing this out of proportion. I was going to share the money with you. It was going to be a surprise. My apartment is still under construction. Where am I supposed to go? At least give me my things from your house. I had my lawyer respond to the last one, arranging a supervised time when she could collect her belongings from my porch while I documented what she took. I didn't want her inside my house again. She showed up with 2 friends, presumably for moral support or as witnesses. The look on her face when she saw me filming the exchange was priceless, a mixture of indignation and embarrassment. This is completely unnecessary, she muttered as she gathered her clothes, toiletries, and a few books she'd left at my place. Is that everything? I asked when she finished. Yes, she said stiffly. Though I still think you're being ridiculous about all this. It was just a few rentals while you were gone. People do it all the time. No. People don't rent out homes they don't own all the time. That's fraud. I had a tea. I was your girlfriend. I was just being resourceful. Having a tea doesn't give you ownership rights. I replied calmly, and you're not my girlfriend anymore. Her face fell at that. Maybe until that moment she hadn't realized the relationship was over. One of her friends tugged at her arm and they left without further comment. In the following days I learned more about the extent of what she'd done through Airbnb's investigation and my own research. 1. She had listed my house about 2 days after I left for Arizona. 2. She had hosted 4 different sets of guests over 14 days. 3. She had earned approximately $2,940 in total. 4. She had given guests access to everywhere except my home office, which she kept locked. 5. She had used my linens, towels, kitchenware, everything. 6. She had even created a house manual with instructions for using my appliances. The final straw was discovering she'd left a spare key hidden under a planter on my back porch for emergencies, according to one of the previous guests I contacted. I would never have known if I hadn't specifically asked if they'd been given any external access codes or keys. Airbnb was surprisingly helpful throughout the process. They refunded all the guests, froze the remaining funds in Vanessa's account, and permanently banned her from the platform. They also offered me a goodwill payment to cover the cost of changing my locks and any other remediation needed. I ultimately decided not to press criminal charges. The police report was enough of a wake-up call, and the civil demand letter from my lawyer seemed to finally drive home the seriousness of what she'd done. She transferred all the Airbnb earnings to me without further argument. It's been 6 months and I've had no contact with Vanessa since the day she collected her things. Through mutual friends I heard she moved to another city for a job opportunity, or at least that's what she told people. Part of me wonders if she left because of the embarrassment of what she'd done becoming known among our social circle. I've since installed a more comprehensive security system and I'm much more careful about who gets access to my home. This whole experience has been a harsh reminder that you never truly know someone after just 8 months of dating. The strangest part, sometimes I still catch myself wondering if I overreacted. That's how effective her gaslighting was, making me question whether I was wrong to be upset about someone literally renting out my house behind my back. But then I remember her words. You weren't using it as if that entitled her to do whatever she wanted with my property. And I realized my response was completely justified. Update. 1 month later. First, thanks for all the comments and support. Several people asked for an update, so here it is. A lot of you asked why I didn't press criminal charges. Honestly, after talking with the police and my lawyer, it became clear that the case would be complicated because she had a key I had given her and had been allowed to stay there. It wasn't straightforward trespassing or breaking and entering. It would have been a messy case that might have dragged on for months with no guarantee of a significant outcome. The civil approach was cleaner and gave me what I wanted: my money back and her out of my life. For those asking about the family I displaced, I followed up with them after everything settled. Airbnb refunded them fully, and I actually sent them an additional $300 gift card to the hotel they ended up staying at as an apology for the disruption. They were understanding and even thanked me for handling it respectfully. Several people suggested I should have let the guests stay and just made Vanessa pay me. Logistically and legally, that would have been problematic. They were in my house under false pretenses, and continuing the arrangement could have created liability issues. Plus, I honestly wasn't comfortable having strangers in my home who had been communicating with someone who had just massively violated my trust about Vanessa's new job in another city. Turns out that was partially true. Through a former mutual friend, I learned she did move, but it wasn't exactly for a job opportunity. Apparently, she pulled something similar with a previous boyfriend about a year before meeting me. When people in our social circle found out about what she did to me, someone connected the dots and the earlier story came to light. She left mainly because her reputation was shot. The most surprising part of this whole saga. Last week I received a letter from Vanessa, an actual handwritten letter sent to my address. It contained what seemed like a genuine apology. She admitted she had boundary issues and was in therapy working on them, said she didn't expect forgiveness but wanted me to know she recognized how wrong her actions were. I appreciate the apology, but I've moved on. Some betrayals of trust simply can't be undone, no matter how sincere the regret may be. For anyone dealing with similar situations, document everything, know your rights, and don't let anyone gaslight you into thinking you're overreacting when they violated your boundaries. Trust your instincts. They're usually right.